By the year 700 CE, the Umayyad Caliphate ruled from Spain to India, one of the largest and strongest empires of its time. Wealthy, organized, and expanding rapidly, the Umayyads seemed unstoppable. But within just 50 years, it would all fall apart. One of the most powerful empires in Islamic history would collapse suddenly and completely. So, how did it happen and why? Stay tuned to find out. After decades of internal conflict and civil war, the Umayyads emerged not only victorious, but transformed. No longer just a political dynasty, they became the architects of the first true Islamic empire. At the center of this transformation stood two men, al-Malik ibn Marwan, the visionary, and his son, Al-Walid I, the executor. Al-Malik centralized power, made Arabic the official language of administration, and introduced a standardized Islamic coinage, cutting all ties to Byzantine and Sasanian influence. He constructed the Dome of the Rock in Jerusalem, not just as a religious monument, but as a symbol of Islamic power and Umayyad authority. His son, Al-Walid, took that vision and expanded the empire at an unprecedented rate, one that shocked the world and became legendary. Under his rule, the Umayyads launched one of the greatest waves of conquest in Islamic history, from the Atlantic to the borders of China, conquering Spain in the west and Sindh in the east. By the early 700s, the Umayyad Caliphate had become the largest and most organized empire in the world. Its borders spanned 3 continents. Its administration ran like a machine. Its armies marched in every direction. The empire seemed untouchable. And so, how did the Umayyads fall? How did such a sophisticated and stable caliphate, built on vision, unity, and power, collapse in just a few short decades? In 711 CE, 2 military campaigns, led by teenagers on opposite ends of the empire, would come to define the peak of Umayyad expansion. In the west, Tariq ibn Ziyad crossed the Strait of Gibraltar and launched the conquest of Al-Andalus, crushing the Visigothic kingdom. Legend says he burned his ships behind him, turning to his men and declaring, "O my warriors, where will you flee? Behind you is the sea, and before you is the enemy. By Allah, you have nothing left but truth and patience." In the east, Muhammad bin Qasim, just 17 years old, led a bold campaign into Sindh, defeating Raja Dahir and establishing Islam deep into the Indian subcontinent. The Umayyads had accomplished what even Alexander the Great had not, ruling a realm that stretched from the Atlantic Ocean to the Indus River. But expansion came at a cost. With every new city conquered, the challenges of ruling a vast and diverse empire grew harder to contain. And while their armies marched outward, discontent was quietly spreading from within. As the Umayyad Caliphate expanded, so did its population. Islam was spreading faster than ever, not through conquest alone, but through culture, trade, and personal choice. But with that growth came a new and unexpected problem, one that would shake the empire from within. The Umayyad economy relied heavily on the jizya, a tax paid by non-Muslims living under Muslim rule. But as more and more people converted to Islam, that source of income began to shrink, and the consequences were serious. If every non-Muslim converted, the empire would face a massive loss in revenue, making future conquests difficult, and the construction of lavish Umayyad palaces nearly impossible. Instead of adjusting, the Umayyads enforced a policy that defied Islamic justice. They continued collecting the jizya even from new Muslims. This decision created deep frustration, especially among non-Arab Muslims known as the Mawali. They were Muslim in faith, but outsiders in society. Taxed, excluded from leadership, and treated as inferior, many began to question whether the Umayyads were truly upholding Islam, or simply using it to protect their own power. The Prophet Muhammad had warned against this kind of inequality in his final sermon. No Arab is better than a non-Arab, and no non-Arab is better than an Arab, except in piety. One man tried to bring the caliphate back to that principle. In 717 CE, Umar ibn Abd al-Aziz became caliph, a reformer, a man of principle. Some would later call him the fifth rightly guided caliph. He ordered governors to stop taxing converts. He treated the Mawali with dignity. He even paused military campaigns to focus on internal justice. For a moment, it seemed possible that the Umayyads could save themselves from within. But just 2 years into his reign, Umar ibn Abd al-Aziz passed away. Many believe he was poisoned, not by rebels or spies, but by his own family. With his death, the last real chance for peaceful reforms died too. While the Umayyads grew comfortable in Damascus, a new movement was quietly taking shape in the east. The Abbasid family, descendants of the Prophet's uncle Al-Abbas, had stayed out of politics for decades. But now they saw an opportunity. Not only were they more closely related to the Prophet, but they also gained support from Muslims who felt betrayed by the Umayyads, especially supporters of Ahl al-Bayt. In the 730s and 740s, they began spreading their message in secret. They promised equality, justice, and a return to prophetic leadership. To some, they even hinted that a descendant of Ali had blessed their cause. Their base was far from the Umayyads' power. In Khorasan, in the far east of the empire, there, among a growing population of non-Arab Muslims, their message found open ears. These were people who were tired of unfair taxes, second-class treatment, and a distant caliphate that didn't represent them. In 747 CE, the movement finally revealed itself. In the city of Merv, a man named Abu Muslim raised the black banners of the Abbasid Revolution. He wasn't from the Abbasid family. He wasn't a well-known leader, but he was a skilled organizer, a powerful speaker, and likely Persian by origin. Under his leadership, the revolution spread like wildfire. Khorasan fell quickly. Town after town joined the cause. Abbasid armies moved west into Persia, and locals rose up with them, turning against Umayyad governors. Then came Kufa. Long known as a center of anti-Umayyad feeling, the city rose in open rebellion. As Abbasid banners appeared on the horizon, the people expelled their governor and opened their gates. Once Kufa was secured, oaths of allegiance were given to Abu al-Abbas as-Safa, the Abbasid family's chosen caliph. The Umayyads were caught off guard. They hadn't faced a serious threat in decades. Their tax base was weakening. Their people were divided. And now, the revolution had already taken half the empire. As the Abbasid banners spread westward, the Umayyads scrambled to respond. The caliph at the time, Marwan II, tried to hold the empire together. But by then, the Abbasids had already taken control of most of Persia, Khorasan, and Iraq. The empire that once stretched confidently from Spain to India was now shrinking from within. Marwan rushed to gather what was left of the Umayyad forces, mostly from Syria, the heartland of Umayyad power. But decades of peace and comfort had left the army unprepared. The Umayyads had grown used to controlling the battlefield, not fighting for survival. In 750 CE, the two sides met at the Battle of the Zab, near the Tigris River in northern Mesopotamia. It wasn't just a military defeat, it was a collapse. The Abbasid forces crushed Marwan's army. The river ran red with the blood of the last great Umayyad defense. Marwan II fled south, hoping to regroup, but there was nowhere left to run. He was caught and killed in Egypt, and with him, the Umayyad Caliphate came to an end. The Abbasids marched into Damascus, the heart of the old empire. The ruling family, once seated in golden palaces and confident in their power, was now hunted. The Abbasids ordered the execution of nearly every remaining Umayyad prince. One by one, the Umayyad princes were hunted down and killed. The Abbasids wiped out nearly the entire family, all except one. A teenage prince named Abd al-Rahman ibn Muawiyah managed to escape the slaughter, the last hope of a dying dynasty. He fled across the desert, hiding in plain sight, disguised and hunted by Abbasid agents. From Palestine to Egypt, then across North Africa, he was chased, aided only by a loyal servant who had once served his family. After years of running, he finally crossed into Al-Andalus, where the remnants of Umayyad support still remained. There he would establish a new Umayyad state, the Emirate of Cordoba in Muslim Spain. While the Abbasids now ruled the east, the Umayyads would survive in the west, a final ember from a fallen empire. And thus, the Islamic world entered a new era. The fall of the Umayyads marked more than just the end of a dynasty. It was the end of Muslim military expansion in Europe and the beginning of something far greater. In the east, the Abbasids would build a new capital, Baghdad, a city that would become the heart of the Islamic Golden Age, a center of science, philosophy, translation, and innovation. Where empires once expanded with swords, they now grew with ideas. In the west, the Umayyads of Cordoba would rise again, not as caliphs at first, but as emirs who would lay the foundations for one of the most advanced societies in medieval Europe. For the first time, the Muslim world was split in power, but united in vision. A vision that would shape the next 500 years of history. This was not the end. It was the beginning of a golden age. The story of the Umayyads is one of rise to power and a sudden collapse, but it's also a story of survival, legacy, and rebirth. If you found this journey meaningful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories from Islamic history, because this isn't just history, it's our story.